Hello. Well, this is just if you want to join our mailing list. So if you're not on our mailing list, if you get our newsletter, then
like at the next newsletter, this is a good place. You can't find this kind of map because online Amazon has quite a few things, so that would be the easiest.
Okay, we're ready to go. If you want to just make sure you can hear me, and I'll start. So what else are we? Rebecca said there's stickers out there. Is that
yeah? There's stickers and I think 23% off any one price item.
Okay, let me make sure that I'm in the right. Good luck with that. Am I in the right spot? If you look at the. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Camino 101. And just to let everybody know, there's bathrooms there. And we want to thank REI for letting us hosting this here. Becca said out on the table, there's some 25%, 23% off coupons. So make sure you grab them and, I don't know, buy a canoe or something on your way out. This organization is American Pilgrims on the Camino. That's who's presenting this. And the mission of it's a nonprofit, national nonprofit organization. And the mission of that is to foster the enduring tradition of the Camino by supporting its infrastructure, bringing pilgrims together, and educating future and current pilgrims. So that's why we're here. They have a great website and a Facebook page that is the most active I've ever seen. And now my thing is not working. Hang on here. All right, we got liftoff. So we are the Anchorage chapter. There are 43 chapters around the country. So we are the only one in Alaska. We are the Anchorage chapter. We have a Facebook page if you'd like, and you can reach us at anchorage@americanpilgrims.org. We have cards and things with that information over there. We have more or less monthly meetings. So our next one is going to be in September here, and it's about walking specifically the Camino Frances. And then in October, we have hiking across Madeira, who Dana and Lorena, sitting right there, are going to go on this adventure, and they're going to come and share their trip with us. And as far as I understand, it's kind of a winery to winery hike. So Dana's like, I don't know. Well, at least that's how I would do it. But anyway, they're going to talk about that. And then in November, sometime we're going to have our very popular Camino stories, which is like 6 people telling 8-minute stories or 8 people telling 6-minute stories about the Camino, kind of a Arctic Entries style program. And then in December, we have a potluck at my house. So you're welcome to all of those. If you're not already on our mailing list, we send out a newsletter once a month. If you're not on it already, you can point your phone at the QR code and add yourself, or there's a sign-up sheet there that you can add it. If you've signed up with REI does not share that information with us. So the only way we know about you is if you tell us. So given that, what we're going to be talking about today is Camino 101, which is kind of the introduction to the Camino. So we're going to like breeze through lots of things in an hour. My name is Diane Moxness. I probably should have mentioned that. I am one of the co-coordinators. Kathy and Ken is sitting over there, are also coordinators. So we kind of get programs together for the Anchorage chapter. I've been on 2 Caminos and done 3 different routes, the French route, the Norte, and the Primitivo. Since doing my last Camino in 2015, my husband and I have pivoted to hiking in Scotland, Ireland, the UK, and Scandinavia. We're currently halfway through the St. St. Olaf's laden hike across Sweden and Norway, to be finished at a later date. So tonight we're going to talk about what is the Camino, what should you do before you walk a Camino, what should you expect while you're walking the Camino, and kind of things to ponder when you get home or when you're done. And we'll have time for questions. We are also Zooming this. I can't tell if there's anybody, but people are watching this on Zoom and we're recording it on Zoom. So if you want to go back and relive this wonderful experience, that will be available. If you're online and you have questions, put your questions in the chat. I have a microphone on here that I talk to the Zoom people, and this microphone to talk to you, and a clicker. So we're at the outer edge of my technological experience. So what is the Camino de Santiago? When people talk about, oh, I'm going to walk the Pacific Crest Trail or the AT, they think about a start and an ending. The Camino doesn't have a start, it has many starts, but it has one ending, and that is in Santiago de Compostela in northwest Spain. And so when people talk about walking the Camino, it's not a particular trail, it could be many, many paths. So, and why Santiago de Compostela? This is the cathedral there in Santiago. And that is because it is the final resting place of the Apostle St. James. And so it is a pilgrimage to his final resting place. The history and legend of Santiago that he, in the Bible, mentions that after the crucifixion, he went to the Iberian Peninsula, to what's now Spain, to proselytize and spread the word. He came back to the Holy Land and was beheaded. According to legend, his body, and may or may not have the head with it, was sent back to Spain in a stone boat and buried in Galicia. And in the year 813, a shepherd under a field of stars found the tomb of St. James. And so that's Santiago de Compostela is St. James of a field of stars. So that is the legend of St. James. Many centuries later, King Alphonse decided to make a journey from what was in the capital of Spain, which is Oviedo, to make a journey to where the St. James tomb to make sure that that was indeed St. James. And so he traveled along what is now the Camino Primitivo. That was the route that he took to Saint. So he got there and ordered that a chapel be built and that all good Christians should come to the chapel. And so with that, the Camino de Santiago became one of the three great Catholic pilgrimages, Santiago to Rome and to Jerusalem. Oops, hang on here. So Alphonse visits the tomb. And one thing to remember, when he did this, this was at the height of the Moorish insurgents into Spain. So there's a little political component of it. It was kind of handy to have a lot of Christians coming to your neighborhood if you're trying to keep the Moors out. And you'll often see in art, St. James being portrayed on a horse with the Moors underneath the footprints of St. James the Moor Slayer. So that's kind of a history, political history laid on top of the religious story. So during the 13th and 14th century, during the Middle Ages, they estimate that 500,000 people would walk this pilgrimage. They would walk from wherever village they were from in Europe and walk to Santiago and then turn around and walk back. So that was in the Middle Ages. It sort of died out favor, wars, insurrection, plague, things came into play and it sort of died out. But then in the 80s, it started to people became interested in it. And then in the last 20 years, the popularity of walking the Camino has grown. And so last year, over 500,000 people walked it. It's been growing about more or less 10% a year, but not evenly distributed across all of the routes. So anyway, it's becoming more and more popular. The yellow on the graph is Americans that are walking it. So more and more Americans, but still a very small percentage of people walk, maybe I think 8% of people that walk a Camino are from the US. By far the largest percentage-wise is Spaniards, obviously. So why would you want to do this? You know, it's a long ways. Why would you want to do it? Mostly the main reason that people walk it is for religious purposes. 80% of people, when they get to the end, when they're asked what's your motivation for walking it, they say either religious or partially one of the reasons are religious. But 20% of people are not walking it for religious purposes. And actually more than 54% are like other reasons are why they do it. So it is a Catholic pilgrimage, but it's certainly not kind of an in-your-face experience. So the people that we walked our first Camino with was a couple that just got out of the Israeli army. I didn't ask them. I assumed they were not Catholic. But it's an important thing to remember that a lot of people you walk with their spirituality will be a very important part of why they're working. Another reason to do it is just a really pretty place. I mean, the towns and the countryside are beautiful. It's full of history and culture, and if you spend a little bit of time studying, you know, what's been going on along the way, the history, it's really enhances your experience. It also has infrastructure for walkers. You know, it's really, when you're walking a Camino, the economy along the way is really has been over years geared towards people walking and needing a place to stay and a place to eat. So it's very easy to find those things along the way. And it's a chance to get outside your comfort zone. Maybe you get a little bit misplaced. Maybe sleep in a place that you wouldn't be on your top 10 places to sleep, but you get a good night's sleep. And you get maybe a little bit more tired than you do on a daily basis. And it is a chance to meet people from all over the world. Probably the easiest place to meet people outside of your freshman year in college. It's just a very friendly place. And it's a truly unique experience. My husband and I have been doing long walks all over the world, and this is by far the most unique experience of total experience. So, like I said, there are many ways to get to Santiago. It's like, so where you start, where do you decide to go? So there's all these options. This is just Spain. But they made it simple in that there's pretty much 5 main routes. The most popular one, oops, let me see if I can, well, the clicker doesn't work. The yellow route is Camino Frances. More than half of people walk that. 15 years ago, that number was more like 80% of people walked it. So it was the route to walk. Now the Portuguese route, which is actually now 2, there's a variant that goes along the coast. That is the fastest growing Camino, and probably this year more people will walk the Portuguese route than walk the St. Francis route, if statistics keep up. So far this year, the French route, or Camino Frances has been growing about 2% over last year. The Portuguese has grown 20% over last year. So, and then the Norte goes along the north coast. The green one is the Primitivo. The red one is the Anglais, which is the English one. So just to give you a little snippet of each one of those, the French route officially starts in Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port, France, but a lot of people start like, I don't know, Prague or Paris or something and end up going there. But this is goes over the first day, you go over the Pyrenees, which is a major pass into Spain. First day on this route, really hard, which is just unnecessary when you're going 500 miles. You think they spread it out, but they give you the hardest day on the first day. But of course you can, it took us, I think, 33 days of walking. You can certainly take longer than that. And you can also start somewhere along the line that goes through a couple of major cities that you can easily get to if you don't want to walk 500 miles. This is the town of Saint-Jean, which is the cutest town that I had ever seen when I got there, until we walked through 50 more cute little towns along the way. So week 1, to get the most people, of the people that walk this the Camino Francés, 68% of people start at that yellow arrow. So most of the people start in a town called Seria. And why Seria? It is 100 kilometers from Santiago. And to officially do a Camino, according to the cathedral there, you have to walk 100 kilometers. So this is 100 kilometers out. And it's a fairly flat walk. Well, there's a little bit of a hill, but it's not a difficult one. And people talk about, oh, you've been walking 400 kilometers and then you hit Seria, and then all of a sudden the number of people on the trail jump up dramatically. And people go, oh, it's too crowded. And they think about this picture on the left. These two were taken about 10 minutes apart by somebody. And they just let this wave of people walk by them. And then this is what they get to walk on the picture on the right. So there are a lot of people think Powerline Pass on a sunny day. People in front of you, people behind you. On the Camino, everybody's walking the same direction. So it's a little different. But the Portuguese, like I said, is the fastest growing. It officially starts in Lisbon, which is about 400 miles, but very few people walk from Lisbon. From Lisbon to Porto is very industrial, so majority of people start in Porto, which is, 200 miles, I think? And it's about 2 weeks. And from Porto, you can go inland or you can go the coastal route, which is along, surprisingly, the coast. 100 kilometers out is a town called Tui. I think that's how you pronounce it. And that is the second most popular place to start a Camino. The most popular one is Sarria, which 30% of people walking the Camino start from there. The third most popular one is the Camino Anglais, so the English one. This has traditionally been where pilgrims came from England. They would take a boat to the coast and then they'd walk in. This is just about 100 miles, more, 100 kilometers, more or less. It is all in Galicia, in the province of Galicia. So it's the other ones will travel through different, let's not say time zones, but different cultures and things. But this is becoming more and more popular, this route. Another one is the Norte, which goes along the coast. I had, before we went, this vision of walking along the north coast of Spain. And I had a vision of Big Sur in California, up above the cliffs and beautiful sights. And it was that. It was absolutely gorgeous. Until you drop down 1,000 feet and walk across Waikiki Beach, because the Norte has huge resort towns, and they're absolutely gorgeous. But this is San Sebastian, I believe, and it was 100 degrees when we dropped down and walked across there. And then when you're about tired of big cities, you're back up on Big Sur again. So it's a very different kind of hike. Big ocean vistas and resort towns. The Primitivo, which stands not for primitive, but it stands for the first Camino. So it starts in Oviedo and goes up over the mountains, and I use that in air quotes. This is the mountain you went over. There was a cow on top of that mountain, so they have a little different version of mountains in Spain, but it was beautiful, absolutely beautiful. It's called the toughest Camino, but after walking the Norte and then doing this, it didn't feel so tough. I think Ken and Kathy just got off the plane and did this route, and I think you have a little different experience if you haven't been walking, because it was a lot of up and a lot of long days in between towns. But it was absolutely gorgeous. It can be combined like we did to the Norte, and then we zipped off and did the Primitivo. And it was lovely. If you wanted to start 100 kilometers out and just do a shorter one, the town of Lugo is 100 kilometers out, and that's a picture on the right. It has the largest intact remaining Roman walls in the world, and you can walk. It surrounds the old town. Very cool town. And the Camino is difficult, but it's front loaded. All of the hard part is in the beginning. Once you get to Lugo, it's flat. So that's an option for people. And the last one is the Villa La Plata that goes from southern Spain up. If you did the whole thing, it's 600 miles. It gets extremely hot in the summertime. So it's one you might think about at another time of year. This Camino is actually losing every year about 2% people less and less people walk this Camino. It's not as popular. And again, you don't have to do the whole 600 miles. You could start anywhere along it. So all that, it's like, okay, you're going to go. Now you're going to know where you're going to go. When should you go? And people walk the Camino all year round. Some months are more popular than others for reasons that are obvious. Spring is a great time to go. It's increasingly, you can walk as you go along. The flowers are blooming and the grapes are growing. And it gets more daylight and more warmth. We walked in the spring months and it was really enjoyed it. You should be mindful of when Lent and Easter are. Some people go specifically to be on the Camino during Easter, but you should be aware that if you're walking and it's Easter, that it's going to be difficult to find a place to stay because it's a popular time of year. So just keep that in mind. It does rain in the spring, so bring a raincoat. Summertime, July and September can be extremely hot. It is wildfire season, and there have been fires the last couple of years all along the Camino, so it's wise there are some sites that you can log on to and find out where there are fires, if there are in the vicinity, but local knowledge is the best. So if you are there and it's fire season or you see smoke or you smell smoke, that, find out from a local where it is, because it's pretty serious business there. The last couple of years, they've had some huge fires in Spain in the summer. It has historically been a really popular time to walk. Now it's becoming more popular the shoulder seasons. August is traditionally vacation time for Europeans, so a lot of people go. And then as soon as school opens up, September 1st, the crowds traditionally died down, but not so much anymore. In the fall is becoming increasingly popular. It's the Great Harvest. When we walked in the fall, it's like every town had a festival. It was really fun time to walk. In the winter, if you want to avoid crowds, this is the time to go. The downside is a lot of the facilities are closed, the places to stay, and you will run into snow if you you can run into snow on the French route. So if you want to go in the winter, you might think about doing perhaps the Portuguese, where I do not believe it snows on the coast of Portugal, but it could. But the main thing is that there's just less daylight. There's less time to walk, would be the downside of that. 10 years ago, this is what it looks like. These are months along the bottom. You can't really read it. The peak, that was August. That's how it's looked for 20 years, is what the looked like. The light blue was the people walking the Camino Francés, and the rest of them are all, different routes. This is what it looked like last year. So the summer is no longer actually the most popular time, the shoulder season. So I think September is now the most popular one. So it's kind of been more of a table kind of situation where, and you can see that more people are walking the purple and the peach colored one, those two together are the Portuguese route. So you can see it's becoming much, much more popular. So, okay, you decided when you're going to go. It's like, how are you going to get there? Basically, you can get to the Camino from any major city in Europe. So however you want to get there, if you want to go Condor Air to Frankfurt, you can get from Frankfurt to the start of the Camino. This is how my husband and I have always done it. We go to England and we spend some time in England, and then we get a really cheap Ryanair flight to Biarritz, France, which was very close to the start of the French route. You can take a train there. When we did the Norte, we were having a little difficulty figuring out how to get from the airport to the start of the Norte. And then it's like, it's 35 kilometers. We're walking 800 kilometers. So we got out of the airport and we just started walking. We figured we'll just keep the ocean to our right and we can't go too wrong. We get out of the airport and there is a sign for the Camino. We're like on the Camino at the airport. So, but people fly into Paris, they fly into Madrid, pretty much any major city that you want to go to, or you have miles that can get you there. Then you can get a train or a cheap, budget airline to get to the start. To help you plan, if you haven't discovered RoamToRio.com, it's a great travel app. It's a website that you can plug in, your address in Anchorage and the address in St. Jean, and it'll tell you what bus from your house to get to the airport and which planes to get there. It's like, how do you get from A to B? It's really helpful in planning. This is kind of a picture of, I just typed in, how do you get from Paris to St. Jean? And it gives you, train options, bus options, how much does it cost to rent a car kind of deal. And just be aware of visas. Right now, you don't need a visa to get to Spain. There is kind of a online one, I can't remember what it's called, but soon there's going to be, sorry, my knee is locked up, so I'm like trying to get it to move. This ETIAS is going to be a European visa that's going to be required, and they keep putting it off. You don't have to have it now, but it will be in the future. So if you have a Camino, coming up this year, don't worry about it. If you have one for 2025, just, Google that, or just be aware that you may need to get a visa before you go, which will be an online kind of deal. If you're flying through England, you need to have a visa to travel through the UK now, even if you're just transiting. And it's an online thing, and it's hooked to your passport. It's not a physical thing that you get. You just apply for it online and send them a picture of your passport, and you're good to go. So now you got plane tickets to go. It's like, how much should you plan? How much do you need to plan? To plan or not to plan? So there's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just kind of how you want to do it. You could right now just go and pick up everything you need at REI and go to the airport and start walking to Camino. I mean, you can wing it and figure it out as you go. Or you can arrange for a tour company to plan everything for you. Not necessarily go on a tour, but they can book everything for you. So, and everything in between. When my husband and I walked it, we just winged it. We didn't have reservations. We just would walk as far as we wanted to. We'd find a place to stay. We were staying in albergues, which are hostels. Every once in a while, we'd stay in a hotel. And it was fine. I'm not sure I would do it that way now. When we walk in England, we use a tour company to book everything and schlep our bag for us. But the advantages of doing it yourself is that, things happen. You can change on the fly. You might meet some people you want to hang out with. You might want to stay in the same towns they're staying in. You might have injuries or tired and you want to take a day off. If you've had somebody book everything for you, it might be more difficult to change. And it's a chance to be spontaneous in a life that we're hardly ever spontaneous at now. But it's harder. If you're with a big group, it's harder to do this. It can be stressful. My husband's favorite thing to say while we were walking and somebody would pass us, he'd be like, well, there go the last 2 beds in the albergue, in which case I would rethink about my life choices and partners. But anyway, we always found a place to stay. We never got locked out. But there are many resources. The Barely guides, they're not perfect. They're like the guidebook that everybody loves to hate, but they're very comprehensive. They're small, they're easy to portable. John Barely died this last year, but his daughter is producing a new edition for the Camino Frances. So they have one. He has one for the Frances and one for the Portuguese. And I have copies here if you want to look at it. And also this Gronze, GRONZE.com. It's in Spanish, but it has like every town that you're going to walk through, what all the accommodation links to hook up to book the places if you want. And there are many apps, Wise Pilgrim, a lot of the albergues and places to stay use booking.com to book for places. If you use booking.com and look up a town and it's like, oh, everything's sold out. Well, places don't always put all their rooms on booking.com, and not all of the places to stay use booking.com. So don't look at that and freak out. Or you can pre-plan everything. There's all these companies that will do what we call self-guided ones, that they will book everything for you, the hotels. They'll arrange to have your bag shipped. They'll have breakfast and lunch, breakfast and dinner included if you want. The pros of that is it can be a lot, it's a lot less stressful when you know where you're sleeping, for sure, at night. And you can select if it's like, no bunk beds for me. I only want nice linen sheets and fluffy pillows. You can select kind of the level of accommodations you want to stay in. The cons are it's more expensive. If weather, illness, injury gets in your way, it's a little harder to adjust. And the stages might be not as adjustable as you would like, that they maybe have a standard, this is where you're gonna go. And if you're not careful, you can completely miss out on the communal experience of the Camino if you're staying in hotels, and a lot of the times they may book you off the route. So you may be staying in a place that doesn't have a lot of other pilgrims staying there. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but you could have just a different kind of experience. And that could be fine, but it's just something to think about. You can also do a combination of planning it yourself or winging it and just booking 2 or 3 days ahead of where you're going. And so you can adjust. So you can do a combination of it. My sister-in-law just did, I think this is her 8th Camino or something. She actually did a guided trip that was not a whole Camino. It was like parts of it. And it was kind of a spiritual, some kind of retreat kind of experience. So she walked the Camino, only was just sections of it. So some parts she really liked and some parts she felt, she's a carry your own pack kind of gal. And so she carried all of her gear for essentially a bunch of day hikes, but she carried everything, and she said people thought I was crazy. But that's how she does her Camino. So the question is, what kind of accommodations do you want to stay in? Do you want the communal experience, or do you want to stay in a private room, or maybe all the above? So albergues have been set up along all of the Caminos, tailoring specifically for pilgrims. It's very social, they're very cheap, 15 to 20 euros to spend a night. There are many options. They cater specifically to pilgrims, so they know that people are going to get up early and leave, and that they're going to want to go to bed early, and they don't want to eat at 9 o'clock at night when the rest of the Spaniards are just thinking about eating dinner at 9. The cons are it can be noisy if you're sleeping in a room with 50 of your closest friends. So earplugs are your friends. Bunk beds, 10 years ago, bunk beds were a way better idea than they are for me right now. But they do have, some albergues do have private rooms. And if you want to stay in an albergue and get the communal experience, but have your own private room, definitely need to make reservations for those rooms because there's not many of them. And some of the albergues take reservations, some do not. And some of them only take cash. So make sure you have some cash, some euros with you. And the other cons are that you can be exposed to germs and things just because you're staying with a lot of other people. And usually the disease of choice on the Camino is upper respiratory. You hear people coughing at night, and that seems to be, people don't tend to have GI problems. It's more like coughing. If you're staying in your own room, you have less of that. So private room, you know, albergues have some. There are things called casa rurals, which would be like a bed and breakfast. People have rooms in their house that you can stay in. Monasteries will have rooms, will have places that pilgrims can stay, and hotels along the line, along the way. My husband and I would stay in a hotel once a week. So we'd stay in albergues with 50 of our closest friends, and then I'd say it's time for my princess card, which is my credit card, because I wanted my own bathroom and I wanted a really nice fluffy towel. So you could kind of mix it up. So you sleep better usually in a hotel room or in a private room. The cons are it's more expensive, anywhere from 35 to 150 euros. A lot of the hotels will have a pilgrim rate. If you ask, when we stayed in Burgos, we were going to stay in El Cid, which is one of the nicest hotels along there. And my husband's like, how much is what's our walk away price? And I'm like, 150 euros. And he's like, what? And I'm like, hey, we've been paying 10 euros for 2 weeks. And we get there and they look at our backpacks and they say, are you pilgrims? We say, yes. And they said, how's 50 euros sound? We're like, done. And a really nice hotel room. But they don't advertise that. You just have to ask, or you have to look sweaty and have a backpack on. Booking.com, Airbnb, you can use to book, or better yet, you call them directly. And if you're not familiar with WhatsApp, it's an app on your phone that you can make phone calls via the internet. And so you're not paying, you know, if you can get if you can get Wi-Fi, you can call. And a lot of Europeans use that. And it's a way to talk to people without worrying about, charges. Like I said, you can book direct, and that's a nice thing to do. They get all the money that way. Also, you can ask wherever you're staying. If you know the next night where you want to book a hotel, you can ask the people you're staying with to call them if you don't speak Spanish. So, okay, what to bring? That's like a whole hour situation here. So we're just going to hit the 3 hot things that you need to worry about. This is everything I took on my second Camino. Same thing I took on my first one. Our first Camino was the coldest May in the history of Spain. And so I brought a vest, a puffy vest. And then we went in the fall and it was the hottest September in 80 years. So, but I wore the same things. The first time I only wore long pants. The second time I only wore short pants. But you don't need a lot. But what you do need is a backpack. Depending on if you're carrying your stuff or you're shipping your stuff ahead, any size range is anywhere from like 28 liters to 45 liters. This is the pack that I walked both Caminos in, 44 liters. I had a fairly bulky sleeping bag. It took up half the pack. We just walked across Sweden and I carried a 28-liter pack, but I didn't have to bring a sleeping bag. I had a sleeping sack, but I didn't have very much room for snacks, and that's very important. So, you just want to make sure you have room. Figure out what you're going to sleep in. If you're taking a sleeping bag, make sure your pack will hold it, and other things. And then, what a kind of organizing system of stuff sacks, packing cubes, Ziploc bags. I always encourage people to bring a small day pack, use it as a stuff sack. And even if you want to carry your gear, life might get in the way and you might want to ship it for a day to give your knees, your back a rest. You'll still need to carry water and a raincoat. So if you have a little backpack, or use it when you get to town and you dump your pack in the hotel or albergue, you have a little day pack to walk around town in. This is in front of an albergue. It wasn't open yet, and the protocol on albergues were first come, first serve, so people line up their backpacks. And so when you get to one, you'll know this is our last 2 of our packs. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So it's 7th and 8th people there. So as long as they had at least 8 beds, we were good. So that is the protocol for. And the next important thing is shoes. Almost all those shoes will work. People hike in hiking sandals and trail shoes and hiking boots. Germans almost always wear hiking boots for some reason. Some people tend to really like their shoes. So when you ask what shoes you should wear, they're very adamant. You have to wear hiking sandals, or, oh, you have to wear hiking boots or you'll destroy your ankles or whatever. So my advice is don't crowdsource your shoes. Whatever you would go hiking in the Chugachin is fine. I wouldn't wear running shoes. I'd wear something with a little stiffer sole. But if you're used to hiking in hiking boots, then wear hiking boots. If you're doing trail runners, that's what I would use. I walk the Camino in hiking shoes, the upper right-hand corner. I now hike in trail shoes. So the question is waterproof or not waterproof? That's a personal choice. You don't really need waterproof shoes on the Camino. When I walk in England, I would only walk in waterproof shoes because it's just wet there. On the Camino, not always. How much cushioning do you need? The really cushy shoes are great, but a lot of them need time to relax after you've walked 6 hours in them, and they scrunch down, and then you walk the next day and they never get a chance to relax. So if you've got really cushy shoes that you like before you walk the Camino, I suggest doing a couple of back-to-back walks in them and make sure that they're still as cushy as you like after the third day. Weight, light is better, but I wouldn't go in 5-pound hiking boots, but lighter isn't always the best option, but it is the heavier the shoes, the tired your feet are going to get. People recommend a half a size to a full size larger than you'd normally wear to accommodate your feet swelling. That's an individual thing. Not everybody's feet swell the same amount. So I recommend that you go to Kincaid and you walk here. That's about 10 miles, and then you go try on shoes. And that will tell you how big a shoe you have to get. 10 miles on pavement on the coastal trail will tell you whether your feet swell or not. Mine don't. Some people swell like 2 sizes, so it's a personal thing. And if you're staying in albergues, you'll need another pair of shoes. It's a shoes off kind of experience, so you'll need shoes to wear in the shower or in the building. So whether you take an extra pair to walk around town in, I did not. I just wore flip-flops, but I debated whether I should bring chacos, which I could hike in if I needed to, but then I decided I didn't want the extra weight because I was kind of windy. I didn't want to carry a lot of stuff. But you will need something to walk around inside the building. And then the next question is rain gear. We have poncho people, and we have raincoat and rain pants people. I'm a raincoat and rain pants, now turned into a raincoat and rain skirt, and a pack cover. If you want some entertaining responses, go on to the American Pilgrims Facebook and post, should I be wearing a raincoat or a poncho? And within about 2 minutes, you will get 700 responses, all of them absolutely sure that you should do what they did. So they both work. But it will rain at some point when you're there, most likely. You'll notice me standing here, and the lower part of my pants, those are rain pants, are all muddy. Most likely that is not mud. That is a couple hundred years of cows on the trail. So just keep that in mind, that you don't really need gaiters, but every once in a while it would be, it's like one day it would have been nice just to keep the mud off of things. But, so lots of packing lists. We have some here. There's some on the back of these flyers. The chapter has developed this, it's actually 4 pages of, like, depending on when you go, this is what you should need. You need one of these and one of these. We have it online. We have some copies there. But it's like a pick, choose yourself. You're gonna need 2 of these. What do you need? The rules on packing is try everything before you go. Wear everything you're gonna wear, try it. Wear your shoes in the rain, in the cold, and the heat if you can, and see if you still like them. Wash your clothes in the sink, and do they dry overnight? Because that's the clothes you're gonna want. They're things that dry overnight. And walk with your pack fully loaded. I don't think you need to walk all the time with your pack fully loaded, but you should at least pack it and walk around and make sure you have room for snacks. And it's a doable amount. And if you're debating, Chacos or flip-flops, what's the lighter option? And I would always go with the lighter option. People say you should never do any more than 10% of your body weight. And it's like 10 to 15% is a nice goal, but there's nothing magic about 10%. And I would challenge anybody to see if they can tell the difference between 10% of your body weight in a pack or 12% of their body weight in a pack. It's going to feel heavy no matter how much you have, but go lighter if you can. My son, when I was packing to go somewhere and I was throwing stuff in my pack, and he goes, "Mom, how much does a pebble weigh?" And I'm like, "Nothing." And he goes, "How much does a pack full of pebbles weigh?" And that's the kind of thing that'll get you on packing. It's like you start adding things in. Oh, I need this. Oh, I need that. Oh, and all of a sudden your pack is full of pebbles. Training. This is going to be hard. No matter how good a shape you're in, there are going to days that it's going to be hard. If you train, it's less hard. But it's not hard every day, and it's not hard all day long. It's just know that it's going to be hard, and the more you hike and say in sports, practice how you play. You're going for a walk, that's how you train, is walk. And walk with a pack doesn't need to be your Camino pack, but just get used to having that weight on your shoulders if you're not used to walking. Because even if you're having your bag shipped, you're going to have a day pack on every day. So, and strengthen your knees and your quads. Going uphill is hard. Going downhill is what gets your knees. And that's kind of if you look at people in Santiago as they finish it, to half of the people walking have like neoprene sleeves on your knees because their knees are sore. So the more you can strengthen your knees before you going downhill, the better off you're going to be. Your ankles are important. So walking on uneven ground and also doing exercises to get your flexion of your ankles. Doing ankle exercises will help the walking. And weight train is always good for you anyway. So, but again, if you want to, you can just go buy all your stuff right now from REI, get on a plane and go and start walking. And the first week, you're going to be like, "Oh, this is really hard work." And by the second week, your body's like, "Okay, I'm used to this." And your mind is still going. And then the third week, everything calms down and you're like zoned out. So anyway, but it is tough in the beginning, and the more you train, the less tough it's going to be. Couple other details. Phones. We can't actually travel without phones anymore. Wi-Fi or Wi-Fi, as they call it there, is available everywhere. If you don't have an international plan, make sure you turn off your data so you don't get a $200 phone bill when you get home. My husband and I travel, we get an eSIM card, not prepaid, but we get a plan, an eSIM card. It's quite easy to do. You just Google best eSIM card in Spain. You have to have your phone unlocked, but it's the way we do it. Again, WhatsApp with Wi-Fi, you can make calls or text. You can text through it as well. These are the major phone companies in Spain: Orange, Vodafone, Movistar. You can get SIM cards there. You can go there and get a physical SIM card to put in your phone, but most phones, if they're fairly recent, will have an eSIM option to them. Spain uses C plugs, which are the 2 round plugs, pretty standard in Europe. That's the kind of plug-in. And for charging everything, you don't need any kind of this is kind of an adapter, but you don't need a converter. You take in your laptop, I think you might, or a hairdryer, which I don't recommend. You'd need they have different voltage over there, but your phone figures it out. So what's on your phone? This is a picture of my cellular thing. So you see right down in the middle, it says SIM. And the first one is my GCI number. And then this was from when we went to Norway. we bought an Orange eSIM card from Orange. And we were over there when I took this picture, so it was on and my home SIM card was off. But it's real easy. You just go online and you get to, the Orange website for eSIMs, and you pick how much data you want, whether you want a phone number with it. And you hold your phone up to the QR code and it'll download it. And then once you get into the country and you have Wi-Fi, you activate it. And it takes about a half an hour to activate it, but it's pretty simple. Hiking apps, a lot of people like to use hiking apps, All Trails, Hiker, Strava, all those, the Camino will be on all of these. And you can get, where you are along the trail. These things eat up your battery on your phone like you cannot believe. So I caution you, if you're going to use it to route find on the Camino, which you don't really need, but if you're going to do it to follow along, just know that you're not going to get a whole day, at least unless you have a different kind of battery than I have on my phone. You'll need a backup battery to recharge your phone. But it is kind of handy to look and see like what's ahead of you on the trail, like, ooh, we have a big uphill coming up or a downhill. Let's see. These are some of the apps. You can take a picture of it, but some apps that are helpful: WhatsApp, Grons, Wise Pilgrim. A lot of these, they'll have where the town you're walking through. They'll have accommodations and connections that you can book through them. So anyway, there's lots of online help. Let's see. Not so fun details, but we should probably mention bed bugs. People completely freak out over bed bugs. So I've walked 1,000 miles on the Camino. I've never seen a bed bug, never encountered anybody that had bed bugs on when we were there. Occasionally people do run into them. I ran into one guy said, oh yeah, I did last Camino. I got bed bugs in the hotel that I stayed in Santiago, but not in the albergue. So it's good to know. That's what a bed bug looks like. They're 1/4 of an inch, so they're visible. They do not carry diseases. They're not like ticks, but they do bite. They tend to have like 3 bites in a row. That's a kind of telltale sign that's a bed bug. And this is like bed bug poop on the mattress. And that's a sign, if you're concerned about it, is to just pull the mattress back and look on the seams to see if you look like black spots. Like I said, it's really rare to run into them. If you want this penetrum, you can spray on the outside of your backpack or on the outside of your sleeping bag, keep them off. My husband works in Central America. He sprays his clothes with this stuff to keep mosquitoes and other creepy crawlies off of him. Keep your pack off the bed. That keeps, if you've got perhaps the bed bug on your pack, it keeps it from transmitting it to the bed, or if there's ones on the bed, it keeps it from transporting in your backpack. They're fairly easy to kill. Heat kills them. So you just put everything in the hot dryer and it'll kill them. So the last you have to worry about them. I would not hesitate to go or stay. And definitely albergues are not more susceptible to bed bugs than any other accommodations. You could probably get them into Hilton. The other thing that people are concerned about is blisters is probably more real. Blisters are caused by friction. Best way to deal with blisters is avoid them. Having proper fitting shoes with a liner sock and maybe Vaseline or Body Glide or something viscous on your skin. So when it's rubbing, the shoe is rubbing the sock, it rubs itself and not against you. If you feel a hot spot, stop immediately, take your shoes off and put a Band-Aid on it. If we take our shoes off whenever we stop, just to let our feet air out. If you get a blister, Compeed is a brand of sort of like Band-Aids, and Band-Aids has a similar thing. It's something you put on and it acts like a synthetic blister. A blister is forms over an injury on your body, either by friction or fire or something. And so the blister is trying to protect that injury. And so a Compeed will act like that. And it's meant to just stay on your foot. So some people are susceptible to blisters and other people aren't. So it's a good thing to know. So how are we doing for time here? So typical day on the Camino, get up early. We scope out the night before how to get out of town. Albergues want you out by 8:30, 8 or 8:30, so it's a little different than a hotel. And you just follow the arrows. So there are arrows and scallop shells. It's probably the best marked trail. It's really hard to get lost on the Camino. It's very well marked. We just get up right away and walk. And then when a little later in the morning, we'll stop and have a little picnic breakfast that we've bought the night before. And then we walk some more. On the front says about 66% of the walk is on paths, 43%, according to the guidebook, is on quiet roads and a little bit on main roads like this. But you're mostly walking on hard surfaces. The picture in the middle is the one that everybody takes. It's the only stretch of the Camino that looks like this. But it's mostly paths, maybe a little bit of gravel, but a lot of, and some cobblestones. You know, I forgot to ask, how many people have walked the Camino here? 1, 2, 3, a couple of it. How many people are like actively planning? Oh, excellent. How many people came thinking this was like at a time not? Wondering like, why am I here? So, so about 10 o'clock in the morning, the bars open up and they turn into cafes. And so we stop and have our second breakfast, which is usually tortilla, which is like a Spanish patata, the eggs, potatoes served with bread, cafe con leche, which is like the best latte you'll ever have. And so that lasts us like for the rest of the day. Quick thing on money, those places take money. Euros they use, we get our euros from cash machines. Cash machines will usually give you large, like 50 euros bill. Little places, cafes don't want 50 euro bills. So as soon as we get our money from the cash machine, we'll go to a supermarket and buy like a pack of gum or some nuts and give them the largest bill we have and get change in smaller bills. So we can give the smaller businesses small bills. We usually take a debit card, a credit card, and a spare. I've known several people that have had trouble with debit cards and credit cards from credit unions for some reason, especially cash machines. So not 100% of the time and not always, but if you have a debit card from a credit union, you might think about getting a second debit card or a way to get cash that doesn't involve one from a credit union. Just advice. This is kind of a budget on the low side. If you're staying in albergues, it's going to be about $40 a day. So fairly cheap vacation. So we walk for about 6 hours a day. We'd walk on average through about 5 villages. There's usually water in the villages that's drinkable. You can drink the water in Spain. You don't have to treat it. If the water is not portable, there will be a sign on it that you'll notice. Less and less people are biking. You can bike a Camino, less and less people are biking it every year. So now about 4% of people bike it. Last year, 237 people did it in a wheelchair, which I think is phenomenal. And you'll see horses, people riding horses occasionally, but for the most part, people are walking. We stop early in the afternoon, and like I said before, if you're staying in albergue, then not open, the protocol is to line up your packs in order, and you leave your packs there and maybe change out of your shoes and then go to the bar across the street and have a beer or a snack. The guidebook here on the upper right has the little A's show that those are albergues and what kind. It's kind of hard to read, but they have a number divided by a number. So like upper left-hand corner, I think it says 30 divided by 4 means there are 30 beds in 4 rooms. And it gives you an idea of like how the size of it is. The really nice ones are like 40 beds, 20 rooms, which means all the rooms are 2 people to a room, which are like 4, like a hotel room. To stay in an albergue, you'll need a credential, which you can order from American Pilgrim's website. They have just the thing, order a credential, and if you're a member, they're free. If you're not a member, they're $5, but you do need one of these before you go. You can also get one from the Pilgrim's office if where you're starting has a Pilgrim's office. A lot of cathedrals will have them as well. When we did the Norte, I thought I was going to run out of stamps, so I bought another one along the way to make sure I had room. But you'll need that. We have a stamp. Our chapter has a stamp. So if you have your credential and you want your first stamp to be from Anchorage, we can handle that. Like I said, shoes off. You can see all the different kinds of shoes. This was the first day on the Camino Frances, and notice how clean all the shoes were. This is at a monastery that we stayed at. Shoes are not so clean by then. This is several weeks in. You'll notice that people take out their insoles and air them out, and you get in there and kind of dry them out and give them a breathing. So you check into the albergue, the hotel, find a room or find a bed or find a room. Bunk beds are kind of the norm, so it's very much of a treat if you got a single bed. They often will have blankets, like these have red blankets, but bring something to sleep in, a sleep sack or a sleeping bag. And then once you get there, this is the time where you take everything out and you fiddle with your stuff, which is a full-time occupation on the Camino. Wash your clothes if you need to. There will be laundry facilities at most places. Sometimes it's just a sink, but now more and more places are having laundry washer and dryers in the albergues. I suggest bringing like some sheets, like, there's sheets that you can put in the washer. Washing sheets, I don't know what they're called. But just in case that you're someplace and you don't have soap. We used a laundromat in a big city, and we had to buy like a big thing of soap to do one load of laundry, which is a little overkill, but somebody was happy to get the next one. So I'll have a box of soap on the washing machine. And then after you get checked in, you have time to explore the town, have a glass of wine, and get dinner. A lot of albergues will have a communal dinner. A lot of the restaurants and bars in town along the Camino will serve what they call a pilgrim menu or a menu del dia, which is like a fixed price. Choice of hors d'oeuvres, choice of main course, which is basically meat and French fries. Some kind of dessert, and either a bottle of water or a bottle of wine. And that's usually about 12 euros for that. So it's a really good deal. Not high cuisine, but enough calories to keep you going. And it's usually kind of fun. You get to have a lot of communal dinners with people. A lot of the albergues have their own kitchens, and so you can go to the supermercado, the supermarkets, and buy food and make it yourself if you want to do that. Some of them have like a shared meal. People buy stuff and you make it together. So that's an option if you really want to go the inexpensive route. You can make your own food. I was on vacation, so we ate out every night. And then usually by 9 o'clock, you're ready to go to bed. Like I said, earplugs are your friends if you stay in albergue. We would pack up our bag at night, so our bag is ready to go in the morning, and all I have to do is pile up our clothes that I'm putting on in the morning, put those on, stuff what I sleep in, sleeping bag in a stuff sack in the top of my pack, and go. So if you're early riser or even a later riser, just think about non-crinkly stuff sacks. There's nothing worse than trying to sleep and somebody's getting up at 5 in the morning, crinkling their Ziploc bags. So be a good guy. So you do that over and over and over again until you get to Santiago. So this is the square in Santiago in the cathedral. This is ground zero. So you get there and instantly run into everybody you've seen along the trail. It's a wonderful reunion. So then you're in Santiago and you've been walking all this way, and it's sometimes a little, not a letdown, but it's like, what's next? Now that I'm done. Oh, wait a minute, I forgot this. We have 5 rules when you walk in the Camino. My 5 rules. 1, pick up your TP. The Camino, unfortunately, is littered with toilet paper. So don't be that person. Bring some, doggy bags you collect. You can leave your substance behind, but pick up your TP, put it in a doggy bag, and dispose of it when you get to a trash can. There are things along the way, sometimes places you stay, sometimes places to snacks along the way people put out, and that's donativo means donation. Donativo does not mean free. It means, so give generously. You know, this is a lot of times you're going through very not wealthy part of Spain, and if you can afford a plane ticket over there, you can afford to be generous on when people are asking, giving you something. Next rule is keep your pack off the bed. That mud that is on the bottom of your pack may or may not be mud, so you don't want it on the bed. So don't ever put your pack on the bed. Also, it avoids hitchhiking bed bugs, either from your pack to the bed or from the bed to your pack. So just, you can bring an S hook to hook it on there, or just put it on the ground, but don't ever put your pack on the bed. And don't complain. Be thankful. It's like, we got to this albergue and I'm like, yeah, 3-story bunk bed, not ideal, but it was a place to sleep. The lady that slept on the top, I was thankful, that was a lot younger than I was very nice. So be thankful you have a place to stay and friends to share it with. And the 5th rule is ignore all of us that are saying you must do this, you should do this, you ought to do that. Forget about it. You can do it your way, except for these 5 rules. You have to do these 5 rules. So those are my rules for the Camino. Once you get to Santiago, what do? Well, the first thing you do is go to the pilgrim's office, and you can get a certificate of completion if you have walked 100 kilometers or biked 200 kilometers. It's now got a QR code you get, and you get a time that you go. You don't have to stand in line like we did back in the old days for an hour. You can get a slot to get it, but it's, for some reason I can't tell you where my college diploma is, but I know where both of my Compostelas are. And then you might think about, if you're not done with walking from Santiago out to the coast along the Camino Finisterre, and that goes from Santiago to the coast. It's about another 3 days, and some people just aren't done walking. When I got to Santiago, I was done. So I have not been to Finisterre or Murcia, but you can take a bus out there too. The people that go say it's wonderful, it's much quieter, there aren't as many people, and really enjoy it. So returning home, the Camino may give you things that you don't expect. I mean, you might find that your physical condition is improved, you might have spiritual growth, you might have a sense of accomplishment, you have lived a much simpler life for however long you've been going. You know, you connect with people beyond sort of the trivial way, because you shared this experience. You're kind of connected to this global community. It might expand your sense of like freedom to walk wherever you want, and you're brave, and or you might have none of this. You know, you might come back and you're a physical wreck. It's like, you just don't know. So my advice is just give yourself time to absorb it. I mean, I walked 10 years ago and it's still with me. I mean, here I am talking about the Camino 10 years later. So you don't really know what you're going to get from the Camino. I went in, people like, oh, it's going to change your life. And I'm like, back a week or two, and like, I don't know, same kind of like, we don't use salad dressing anymore. We use oil and vinegar, and I'm threw away everything but my darn tough socks. But sometimes it's much subtler. So I found when I got back, I needed to keep walking. After our first Camino, I walked to Eagle River for the heck of it, because I just needed someplace to go. When I got to Santiago, if you told me I was going to walk to Eagle River, I'm like, no, I'm done walking. So give yourself time, and then think about giving back. You know, volunteer. There's many opportunities if you want to volunteer on the Camino, or stay with your local Camino chapter. We would love your help. And, you know, share your experiences, you know, mentor other people that are going, or be a presenter. We have Camino stories. We'd love to have like a little snippet of your trip. And also you can give money back. American Pilgrims, you can become a member, and they have a wonderful grant program that uses your membership dollars to give grants to infrastructure along the Camino, nonprofit albergues and churches, and the little mile markers that tell you how far you go, the little arrows and stuff. A lot of that is paid for by people that join American Pilgrims that not only support American pilgrims, but pilgrims all over the world. So that's done. I'm only 10 minutes past my time. Any questions? Any comments from people that have been that would like to correct any misinformation I've spewed out? So this is a very quiet. Yep. You. Water. Uh-huh. No, it's usually right in the middle of town. There'll be fountains. Also, I've filled up water bottles, you know, in back rooms in a, you know, a cafe or a bar. If you go into a bar to use their bathroom, buy something when you're there. You know, it costs money for them to clean up after you and the facilities. But yeah, or you could go into a bar and ask them to fill it up for you. But in most towns will have water. On the Primitivo, we had some stretches where it was, you know, that we actually ran out of water, but that was pretty unusual day, hot day and long day. But I usually take a bike water bottle because it fits in my pack better than like a Nalgene bottle. And then I take a collapsible, like platypus one that I fill up that I keep in my pack. And it keeps me, I'm not a bladder person. Tell them about Aquarius. I don't know what Aquarius is. The what? Oh, the drink. Okay, we have an expert. No. Oh, it's electrolyte, Aquarius electrolyte water.
Yes. Hello.
Oh, okay. Okay, go ahead.
So my wife and I just got back about a month ago from Santiago, and we learned pretty early on from a guide. She gave us Aquarius to drink, and she's like, "This will save your life on the Camino." Yeah, it's basically a canned electrolyte beverage. It's delicious. It's refreshing, and geez, it saved us in more ways than we can count. But like,
we have several people nodding in the audience, so they're fans. Okay,
yeah,
Aquarius. Put that on your list, everybody.
it was amazing. They're delicious, but you could probably get them in just about every single cafe on the Camino.
Great, thank you. Okay, you had a question? The question was, for women walking alone, is it safe? And absolutely. There is a app and remind me, safe. Oh, I'm forgetting. There is an app that actually you can go, it works for Spain, and you put it on your app and you can choose the English and things, and it has like, you can say, you know, I'm lost, alert cops. And if you're nervous about it, you can, you know, activate it and, you know, I'm lost, or just like there's somebody suspicious following me, you know, or you know, I need an ambulance. It's not there's a 911, which I'm forgetting what the number is, but before you go figure out what the 911 equivalent in Spain is. But it's kind of a nice app that a kind of layer of safety. But as you saw in the pictures, you're very rarely walking alone. You know, you're not, you know, there'll be times when you're alone not surrounded by people, but if you're feeling uneasy or not, that there are other people around. And a lot of women, I think more women walked the Camino last year than men. So it's, you know, you're in good company. And we had coffees, and there were like 3 women that were all walking it alone. And they're like, oh, when are you going? When are you going? People tend to hook up too. I mean, that you end up walking the same pace as people. You may not walk side by side, but you'll end up in the same places. And we create a kind of a family, and we like, where are you guys staying tonight? Oh, let's shoot for this town. And then you kind of hook up for dinner, and so you may go alone, but you won't feel alone. Has anybody here walked it alone? Any women Terry, did you? Oh, Tammy, you.
And then you walk into the town, and that's where everybody is. Where did they come from? That was wonderful. I love
All right, any other questions? So we have had in the past Camino coffees. We just meet at Kaladi Brothers in one of the community rooms. And if there's interest in this group of people that are leaving shortly or something that want to meet kind of more of a, you know, one-on-one or whatever, just come up and let us know and we can figure out a day. Sometimes we meet, you know, at lunchtime or on weekends or something, but it's kind of fun. It's, you know, people will advertise it and people will come that have been, you know, that have walked and share, you know, information. So, the question is, what is the one thing I would have left in my backpack? The first Camino that I did at the last minute, I'm a baseball hat person. And at the last minute, people like, I kept hearing, oh, you know, baseball hat's not good. It's not going to cover your, you know, blah, you're going to burn out, blah, blah, blah. And so I brought like a bucket hat that went all the way around. It was, and I had it, but I'd never hiked in it. And it kept hitting the back of my pack and it just like bugged me. So I put it in the back of my bottom of my pack. I never wore it again and I wore my baseball hat on. But I pared things down pretty well. I think, you know, going forward, I'd use, you know, like I wear a rain skirt now or a kilt instead of a rain pants. But, it fits in the palm of my hand. It weighs 2 ounces and I can put it on and take it off while I'm walking and it fits in the pocket of my raincoat and it comes down to about here. So it doesn't, you know, and if it's really wet, I roll up my pants. It's airier. Putting rain pants on and off with shoes on is just a pain. They're kind of clammy, but it's warm and, you know, it looks like you look completely geeky when you wear it. But, and it's just a big square of plastic, maybe that real steel, I can't remember what it's called, but it's real, they make packs out of it and stuff sacks out of it. But it's a big rectangle, you could put it down and sit on it like a little ground cloth. And sometimes in England, it was cold, I'd sit down to eat lunch and I'd put it over my legs to keep my legs a little warmer. You know, if it's really, really windy, blowing sideways, pouring rain, it's not gonna keep you dry, but then I don't think anything does. Just have dry clothes in your pack to put on. But yeah, no, once I hiked in the rain skirt, I haven't gone back. What would I not go without? Hiking poles. Yeah, some people don't use them, but I only use one. I don't do the whole Nordic walking. I'm a Nordic skier. I used to run the Nordic Ski Association. I cannot figure out how to walk with 2 poles synchronized. Can't do it. Can do it on skis. Can't do it when I'm walking. So I just carry one. When I go downhill, I use 2. And crossing streams and stuff, I'll use 2. All about remaining upright. And I have those real light black diamond ones that fold up. They fold in thirds. So that's what and my husband. I wouldn't go without my husband. Because he's actually a nice guy, even though he does say things like, there goes the last 2 beds in the albergue. We'll have to walk another 15 kilometers. Like, yeah, every single day. So any other questions? One thing about packing for the Camino, the more you have the stuff laid out, the more you resist the urge to add to it. Because that's really almost overwhelming. Oh, I'm going to need this. Oh, another pair of socks. It doesn't weigh very much. Oh, another, you know, that's, but I wore on the Norte 35 days, I think we walked, I wore the same shirt and the same pair of pants every single day, and no one died. So, anyway, thanks all for coming. Thank you to the people online. Oh, Kathy has the, oh. Oh, that's right. If anybody's leaving soon, we have scallop shells, which is the symbol of the Camino. And so you should, get one. We can give you one, and to have on your pack. I was just talking to somebody who had walked a Camino and they had done another trip, and I'm trying to remember where it was, something like the Choku Trail or something like that. And on this people pack were scallop shells. And so they instantly knew that they had walked the Camino. And they said, oh yeah, we always put our shell on our pack because people now recognize that, and we get to talk about the Camino to people, just random people when we have our pack on. So if anybody's leaving, we have shells. And I think that's, and patches too. You have to have, if you don't get our patch, which is a very nice square one there, we just ask for a donation, but we're really just giving them away. You really have to have an Alaska patch on your pack. That's probably the one thing that I wouldn't go without, because they see the Alaska patch, instant conversation starter. And thank God we're over the Sarah Palin and the guy in the bus, that guy, we're past them. So that doesn't need to be the conversation. So it still is. Oh yeah, we ran this Israeli couple. The guy, we found out we were left, he didn't speak English, and his wife did. And we said Alaska, and his eyes went over, he goes, Alaska, the bus. And we're like, the bus. And he's like, Chris Candless, hero. And my husband like, no, moron. And he's like, actually like, anyway, it was some things die hard. So anyway, thank you all for coming. We'll be around for a while if you have questions. Oh. Ooh, hit that stop record button here.
See you later.
Okay.
Okay. I'll see you next month. Thank you. It was wonderful. I feel really good. I had a first class.